That's using AI to use AI to make a game about using AI with AI. I was watching Charlie play AI-based games like this murder mystery one called Vaudeville. He always tries to gas at his way through the dialogue, and since the AI plays along, it becomes impossible to tell what's actually happening.
I think this mask belongs to you. It's from your collection. If you look on the back of the mask, you'll see that your name, Count Graveson, is written in the back.
What? That's impossible. Let me see that. You're right. This is from my collection. But how did it end up at the crime scene?
But that made me think, what if the actual game mechanic was to gaslight your way through? As a tech bro that's never touched grass, the basic gameplay I came up with was, you work at some tech company, some exec tells you to implement a garbage feature in a week, you have to gaslight your coworkers into rushing to finish the project, you still have to finish your regularly scheduled work, and if you can't deliver both projects, you're fired. I'm not sure how I came up with this though, since I have never had and will never have this experience at any past, present, or future employers. Originally, I was thinking of just using the ChatGPT API and hooking it up to Flask with React and WebSockets for the chat UI. Then, I saw the Claude Code demo making a Next.js app, and it looked way more hype than my duct tape Flask idea, so I used that instead. First, I brainstormed ideas, rewrote it into prompts, then fed it to ChatGPT and iterated. I chose adding AI as the garbage feature to be all meta, and ChatGPT suggested making it about adding AI suggestions for spending in a banking app. I also got it to generate most of the initial copy since Claude Code is expensive and ChatGPT is free. I broke the project down into prompts for Claude Code over an hour and a half. I then used Create Next App and started feeding the prompts to Claude Code. It was my first time using an autocoder and I was impressed, though having to also pay to fix the bugs it generated felt less impressive. So it was existentially painful when it worked and financially painful when it didn't. I kept track of the costs after most queries to see how I was spending my money since it seemed to be competing with Robinhood for how quickly it could drain my bank account. At the end of the first day, I had something relatively functional for $32.64 over a couple hours babysitting it. I tried playing the game, and while it was mostly functional, it was too easy and boring. I wrote out a list of stuff I wanted to fix and finally jumped into the code to try and change things around. The code was actually organized pretty well and the file naming mostly made sense, so it looks like AI finally solved one of the hardest problems in CS. I took a break for a week since I had to work to pay for more API credits. After, I repeated the process, breaking down my feedback into prompts and feeding it in. Even though Claude Code seemed surprisingly good at making relatively complex changes across files, I finally saw it breaking down a bit as the codebase got larger. The responses from the AI was bad, but that was partly since it was using GPT-3.5 Turbo, an old and cheap model. After extensive technical analysis, I decided to switch from OpenAI's API to DeepSeek since it was the cheapest one. However, it's a reasoning model, so it's way slower. Careful research also showed that DeepSeek didn't use Turbo in the name, which slowed it down quite a bit. I asked Claude to implement streaming the messages so I wouldn't just be stuck waiting whole seconds for the response, and ended up burning almost $10 just for it to run into bugs repeatedly, then not be able to implement it, so I bailed on the feature. Instead, I covered up the bugs with better UI by generating profile pictures for each of the stakeholders with Recraft, an image generation website. I chose the first image generated with the following prompt. And here's my list of employees at Synergy Bank. This list of auto-generated stakeholders from Claude seems to have some bias, though I can't quite put my finger on it. As the project went on, the AI started feeling more and more human. It made typos and wasted more money, just like a real employee. When I asked it to fix a minor CSS margin error, it took 7 tries and cost 69 cents. Nice. I don't know what the conclusion is since I'm too bored of the project to keep working on it. Here's the full breakdown of the number of prompts I fed it at the end and the total cost for the prompts by category. The compact here is a command in Claude Code to summarize the context so it uses less tokens. Just like real life, the actual feature work was only 20% of the costs, and most of the budget went into bug fixes and polish. I consider going more meta. AI voices, speech recognition, real-time video generation, AI-generated music and sound effects, so I could cram AI into the title 4 more times. But then, I ran out of hype, so the project is getting defunded and there's a reorg, just like real life. In the end, this project became the game. ChatGPT is the VP, Recraft is the designer, and Claude Code is the overworked engineer hallucinating solutions. And me? I'm just a player, trying to gaslight myself into thinking this was fun.